One of my favorite topics, manifestation. So this is mostly going to be a topic about, well, the presentation is mostly about sort of the science of manifestation and the basis for that, but you can use this for anything. So we can use this to manifest money and wealth and whatever wealth we want in our lives. It's a specific woman's technique, and we'll touch a little bit on some of the things that underlie her technique, but we're not going to specifically talk about any one particular person's technique. So we're going to talk a little bit about the neuroscience of manifestation and what do I mean by manifestation, and then sort of like the physics of where you're manifesting from. So when I mean manifestation, what I mean is you are the creator of your life, of your environment. And so when you are manifesting, you are essentially saying, I want to create X, and now it's going to happen. So you have manifested it when your creation has come to fruition. And that doesn't always mean, I don't mean like creation as in like a piece of art or, you know, a presentation or anything. I mean, you're creating the entire reality. Like, I want to, you know, see a certain thing in my life. Okay, well, then you can create that reality. This isn't really exactly how we have gone about life for many, many decades and thousands of years. So it is a little bit foreign at first, but if you just follow along, you will find it's pretty cool. Okay, so the first thing is the neuroscience. So there's a couple of neuroscience concepts that underlie how we manifest, or what parts in the brain or what systems in the brain are helping you actually manifest reality. Neuroscience and sort of like the psychology of it, and how your psychology and your brain interacts with your environment to create the reality that you're living in. Okay, so one, there's neuroplasticity and your subconscious brain. So the neuroplasticity is basically saying, you know, you have all these neurons and neural networks in the brain that every time you think a thought over and over and over again, it's basically creating a tighter connection between those neurons in the brain. But that also means that if you change your thoughts or you change your experience, you begin to have neuroplasticity, which means you can change some of those connections in the brain. So for example, like when you're trying to start a new habit and you're like, okay, there just aren't those connections in my brain to, you know, get up and meditate every morning, right? But once you have done this thing over and over and over and over again, now there's these connections in the brain that's like, oh yeah, morning means meditation. Okay, it's happening, right? So that's kind of an example. And a lot of that is kind of run by your subconscious brain. You're not even sort of consciously thinking about it, right? When you have to like make a decision and consciously think about something every day, then it's a lot harder. So subconsciously, you're operating day to day without even really thinking about what you're doing. So you do have those subconscious programs in your brain, but science shows that you can change those programs. And to change those programs, you have to give it new thoughts, new pathways, new behaviors for it to change, right? So then you have the reticular activating system. Essentially, it means like if you see something like bright red, you might continue to see red things over and over. So like if you, a good example, right, would be if you buy a red car, you're going to see red cars all the time now. If you buy a Tesla, all of a sudden you're just going to see Teslas all over the place, because what your mind is focused on, you see more of in the world. Your mind is a filtering device, right? So there's a lot going on in reality, but your brain like cannot handle, like you can't actually handle all of that. So your brain has to filter out the stuff that it thinks is irrelevant, right? If you just got engaged and you have a new engagement ring, now you're thinking about engagement rings a lot, or maybe you want to get married and you're like looking at engagement rings. You're going to probably start seeing engagement rings everywhere because that's kind of what's on your brain. And your brain is going to be like, oh, engagement ring, I think that that's relevant to you. Let me show you this. Whereas somebody who doesn't care about rings or isn't thinking about it, they probably wouldn't even notice, you know? So if there's like 20 people in a room and like one person has an engagement ring and one person is interested in it, they're going to see that engagement ring. Whereas like if you ask the 19 other people, they'll be like, oh, did you see that beautiful engagement ring? And they're like, no, I didn't even see it. So that's kind of the reticular activating system in a nutshell. So the way to kind of use this to your advantage is, right? So if you want to see more engagement rings, then you should just think about it or start looking at them or have that thought that you intend to want to see it, things like that. So it goes for the same thing for if you're constantly thinking about how like the sky is like the earth is just super polluted, you're going to see pollution everywhere. If you see that, oh my, you love nature and you love flowers and you just appreciate the beauty, you are going to see beautiful flowers everywhere. So this is how focusing on something actually shifts your entire reality and your perception. So if you want something, you can start thinking about it more and you will begin to magnetize it to you. So that's kind of where the idea of being magnetic comes from, that once you're thinking about it a lot, it will magnetize towards you. Your brain is not thinking like what is good for you to magnetize. It's just saying, oh, you're thinking about that. I'm going to show you more of that. That must be relevant to you. Oh, you're sad. I'm going to show you more sad people. Like, and so this is kind of also goes like not just with money, but like also relationships. Like if you have a certain belief about yourself, you are going to magnetize people who have like the same beliefs about themselves. Okay, so then you have your nervous system. So you all may be familiar with the nervous system. Just to gauge, who's familiar with the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, or the, okay, we've got 1, 2, 3. All right, okay, everybody, great. So you understand the difference between fight or flight and rest and digest. And maybe you've heard of like the vagus nerve, which is a nerve that comes down, you know, this side of your neck, which actually goes all the way to your stomach and can stimulate that sort of rest and digest phase, right? So regulating the nervous system plays a part in this as well. Let's say if your nervous system is extremely dysregulated, then you may be blocking certain other possibilities from coming through if you see those as unsafe. So an example might be like, well, I really want that raise at work and I really want to get that contract. And you tell yourself you do, but if you are not regulated in your nervous system, you may feel like that possibility is very unsafe because it may trigger a stress response in you and your body doesn't want to feel that way. So the way to help this is by going into that, like meditative, doing some breath work, eating healthy foods, going for walks in nature, doing yoga. These things will all calm the vagus nerve, get you into a calmer nervous system state so that you can think more clearly, so that you can form those neural connections, and that you can create your reality from this place of calm rather than fear, and you may not see those certain possibilities as threatening anymore. If you are in that calmer state, you will manifest from whatever state you're in. Okay, and then emotional conditioning. So your emotions play a huge part in the neuroscience of manifestation, because your brain reacts differently to strong emotions than no emotion. So let's just say like you won the lottery, okay? You won the lottery. You were going to have very strong emotions after that of like, oh my God, I'm so excited. You're going to have this surge of like dopamine and serotonin, and just like everything is going to be on fire. So you're going to remember that. Your nervous system is going to remember that. And it's going to say, oh, okay, that was a good thing. Like whatever happened, that was good. And I'm feeling like a strong emotion about that, right? A strong positive emotion about that. So one of the ways to manifest is to actually feel that emotion before the event actually takes place, because your brain doesn't really know the difference between an emotion that happens in the future and an emotion that happens in the present, if that makes sense. So if you are saying, I really want to get that, I want to get that promotion, right? You can imagine, visualize, and feel how you would actually feel getting that outcome. And your brain will start to attach that emotion to that outcome, rather than like, okay, if I'm imagining I'm getting the raise, but I'm just like, I'm kind of afraid, I'm not sure, I don't, maybe I'm feeling like I'm not actually sure I'll get it. So you're just worried about it. Like the emotion that you're feeling there is fear and hesitation and confusion, which is not exactly like a good, safe thing, right? So if you can attach like, okay, I'm getting this promotion, and the way that I'm going to feel is excited, happy, joyful, proud of myself. So you start to feel those emotions while you wait for this promotion to come in. Your brain is going to start thinking, okay, this is a safe thing. I feel good about it, so I can allow this to come through. So let's go a little bit more into that, sort of like with that nervous system, the emotional regulation, what actually is going on in the brain, like on a scientific level, on a physical level. So you may have seen those little like caps that they put on people, and when they're in different states or modes, they can see what the brain waves are at, like what frequency the brain waves are actually operating at. So when you're in a different brain wave frequency, you are really experiencing reality in a very different way. So it's not just the nervous system, but it's also the brain, and whether it's the brain wave state or the nervous system that comes first, the chicken and the egg, but these go hand in hand, essentially. So if you're thinking about manifestation, you definitely want to be in some of these brainwave states more than others. Okay, so these are the different brainwave states. At the most active, we have the gamma state, then the beta, the alpha, the theta, and the delta. And the delta is like you're in deep sleep. You are not really conscious in the way that you are in other states. You are, this is also like if you are under anesthesia, or you're, sort of like, you're like in a coma or something, those, or sleeping, those are, that's the delta state. And then it goes all the way up to gamma, which is extremely, extremely active. So you definitely kind of want to be in the in-between those two states to really be manifesting your reality and what you want. Okay. So does anyone want to take a guess at which states is going to be the best state to manifest from? Yeah. So depending on what sort of stage of manifestation you're in, you might want to be in theta or alpha. So I like to think of alpha as like, if you all are relaxed and open to what's going on and you're not, you're not like at work, but you're not really asleep. Like none of you are in delta or theta right now. I'm sure of that, right? Some of you might be in alpha right now. Some of you might be in beta. Kind of depends on where your brain naturally is. But from a manifestation point, you kind of want to be in the alpha state. So in a relaxed focus or a meditative state where you're kind of, sometimes you're just like, oh, I'm just daydreaming. So you're awake and you're conscious, but you're not in a trance or in a hypnotic state, but you're also not like creating a data analysis plan, that's kind of when you're like, I'm working. Like beta is like when you are at work and you are producing, you're problem solving, right? So I think probably you guys are somewhere in the alpha right now, and that's kind of the place that you want to be to decide what it is that you want to create. So this is going to be the best place to be open to new ideas, to do some of that visualization, to feel into those emotions of what you are wanting, and to allow what you want to come in, right? So that's kind of, alpha is kind of where you're deciding what it is that you want to manifest. And then in theta, where you're a little bit less activated, this could be in hypnosis, a trance, like in a deep sort of meditative state, even that like in-between phase, like where you're like, I'm not quite asleep, but I'm falling asleep, but I'm like not quite asleep yet. And I kind of am in that like weird dreamlike state. It's kind of like that state as well. And this is where you tend to get into your subconscious mind. You're able to access your subconscious mind. So when I talk about hypnosis, or when I'm trained as a hypnotist. And when I am doing that, I'm getting people into a very calm state, relaxed state, where they're more open to what's in their subconscious brain kind of just be coming up to the surface. So in that place, you kind of are shutting down your ego, which allows you to be much more open and to understand maybe where you are blocked, or maybe where you need to change some of those beliefs about yourself or about your reality. And this is where you can reprogram. So like when we're talking about neural manifestation, connecting those new neural networks, you can do this in the theta state because your mind is much more open to making these new connections and reprogramming those connections in this state. And then in beta, this is kind of where most of us probably are most of the day, at least for modern humans. And, this is where, let's say you've already decided what you wanted to create and you've kind of went into that theta state to kind of get everything situated. I'll say that. Then you go back into the beta state, and the beta state might be where you're like, okay, now I'm going to take the clear action steps that I know will get me towards that ideal outcome. So it's not like this is a state that is useless. It's very useful, but it's not really the state that you want to be in when you are manifesting. So your brain is much more active, and when your brain is more active, you are actually less able to get in touch with your intuition, and you are much, you're over-analyzing. When you are over-analyzing, you are trying to use a part of your brain to create your reality when that's not where you're creating from, if that makes sense. I might be able to talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, so here it says, it's too noisy for deliberate creation. The intellect tries to control the outcomes through force rather than selecting from multiple possibilities. So it's kind of like, okay, so like if you're wanting to manifest money, like I really need to manifest like $10,000 by the end of the year. And so if you're in the beta state, you're going to say, I need this money. Let me problem solve, plan, figure out. I'm going to use my intellect to try to figure out how to get that $10,000 by the end of the year. And so you might write out a plan that all makes a lot of logical sense. And then you might be like, great, I'm going to take the next step on the plan. Great. Okay. And you think you're on the path, but if you were in the alpha state, in a more relaxed state, in a more open state, you might be able to just say, I need to find $10,000 by the end of the year. And so I'm going to remain open and move towards the opportunities that come about in my reality. So you might say, I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to get that $10,000. I'm not putting together a plan to do it necessarily, but I'm visualizing it. I'm visualizing how that might happen, what that's going to feel like. And then maybe you get a phone call and somebody gives you like, hey, do you want to get together for lunch? And you say, yes. You say, yes, I do want to get together for lunch. You don't really know what's going to happen there, but this is like the universe is already acting to try to put that manifestation. That's like one possibility out of an infinite number of possibilities. And it's saying, what's the next thing that needs to happen to move her towards that next thing? So then you say, yes, I'll take that lunch. You get that lunch. It leads to, a job offer or a contract. But the point is that you didn't actually, that wasn't part of your plan. Your plan was, you actually might have had a different plan. And if you had only followed that plan and you were not open to something else that might have come through, then you're not really able to create from that place, because you're not really interacting with all of the different possibilities that exist at any one particular time or place in space-time, right? So let's say you've now taken that phone call. Now you went to the lunch and then you got the proposal. And now you can go in your beta brain and be like, okay, great. The beta brain is going to put the proposal together. Wonderful. You've done what you needed to do. The analytical mind took care of that part. But then, you still have to wait for the next outcome, right? Or you have to wait for the next thing to come. You're not really sure like what comes after that. But if you only followed that one plan that you'd created in your analytical mind, you would not have been able to be open to different possibilities of ways of that coming to fruition. So this is why being in a relaxed state and meditating is important, because it shifts your brain out of that analytical mind into that alpha brainwave state, which is much more effective for manifesting. So then that brings me back up to the gamma. And gamma is like when the brain is the most active. This is not when you're problem solving and planning, but when you are in survival mode. you are in fight or flight. You know, literally when you're being chased by a bear, but it could also be something more modern, like you lost your job and you're now like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills next month. So you are in gamma. You are constantly in this gamma brain state trying to be like, how is it going to work? How's it going to work? I'm going to go poor. I'm not going to be able to eat tomorrow. And this is not actually the best state to be creating anything positive, because it goes hand in hand with that fight or flight nervous system. And the fight or flight nervous system in this gamma brainwave state, you only end up creating more problems, because that is what your brain is focused on. Your brain is focused on threats. It's urgent. I'm going to go broke. I'm not going to be able to eat tomorrow. And those are the thoughts that keep going through your head. And so that is what you create. It's challenging to do this, but if you are actually in an urgent, fearful, threatful situation, it's very important that you try to calm your nervous system, get your brain waves at a lower frequency so that you can think more clearly and so that you can think more creatively and more about what you do want rather than what you are fearing. It is just impossible to try to even see positive options that might exist when you're constantly focused on the imminent threat ahead of you. This is why it is hard to be human, because this is kind of how our brain is formed, and this is how our brain is filtering out our reality. And if we're not aware, we don't have any control of the outcome. This is why I like the science of this, because when you are aware of what's going on, then in maybe like a small moment of peace, you can say, oh, okay, I can choose something different. I'm going to choose to, calm my nervous system for 5 minutes just so that I can maybe get a glimpse of clarity, right? But if you're not really aware, I mean, I know that I spent a lot of my life in this fight or flight state too, of just like, and the beta state, moving between gamma and beta, of basically just being like, I have to figure it out, and I have to problem solve enough to get myself out of it. And you're just in this cycle. But if I had known, if I had just calmed down a little bit, maybe I would have had a little bit more clarity. It would have been much easier. Yeah, anything that can get you out of that state will be helpful, because then you'll be able to just see more clearly what the reality of the situation is and see some other, potential possibilities, that you just couldn't even see before. So it's much easier to stay in these more calm states once you've gotten out of your reactive state. So that's why a lot of I've been reading that a lot of investment bankers and traders, they meditate frequently, because their life is so stressful, and they realize that they cannot make good decisions if they're in that state all the time. So people like Ray Dalio swear by meditating, 20 minutes twice a day, because he says he just makes much better decisions because he's in a much calmer state of mind. He is not in fight or flight. He's making decisions from a different place. And so what happens to him? He makes tons of money. So this is how we bring it back to, money and wealth manifestation again, because your brain state and your nervous system state is very, very, very tied to your wealth manifestation. If you are in that gamma state, you will be afraid that you will lose money. You'll be afraid that you will never make money. And that is exactly what you will get. Okay, so then delta is where you're sleeping, right? Or you're not really aware, right? And so you can think of the delta state as where you're integrating everything from the day at this sort of subconscious level. It's forming those connections in the brain. It's saying, oh, she made this decision and that decision. This is the new baseline. And it's reconnecting with all of the potential possibilities that exist. It's saying, okay, this is what she's trying to manifest. Now let's maybe try to find ways to connect those things at a very subconscious delta wave state. Yeah, here we go. There's the summary. Alpha and theta are your sweet spots for manifestation. Beta gets you there and implements the actions. Gamma sabotages your process, and delta integrates it. So that's
the case for important sleep.
Sleep is very important, right? So if you don't get any sleep, then you're also not integrating everything from the day. Yeah. So that was sort of the neuroscience and the psychology of manifestation. So now we get into the cool quantum physics of manifestation. Okay, so this is a little bit more sciencey, but I will do my best. I am not a physics expert by any means, but I do generally understand the concepts. So if you guys have a better way of explaining this, by all means, go ahead. But I tried to come up with a couple of different ways to understand this. So to understand this, you have to understand that reality is not solid, that it's an information system. And with every piece of information, it has a probability of being a 1 or a 0, right? Like if you think of it in computer science terms, you have a 1 or a 0, right? And so the probability of it being that's sort of like the world that we are living in. So everything is operating as a field of possibilities until somebody observes it and interacts with it. So a couple of experiments that point to this. The double-slit experiment. So if you send a particle through a slit, in this image on the left, right? So there's a slit in between. So if you send a particle down the center of that slit, then you should see on the wall that it appears in a line. Then what they noticed is that if you have a wave and you send the wave through that slit, it also creates a wave-like pattern. Then if you have two slits and you send an object through that slit and an object through the other slit, it also creates two lines where the particles hit on the wall behind it. But then if you have a wave and you have the wave go through both slits at the same time, waves act differently. If you think of a wave like a wave on the ocean, or kind of like when you have a pebble that drops in a lake, it creates like this ripple wave effect. But if you drop two pebbles next to one another, and it creates this wave ripple effect, but when the waves interact with each other, they cancel them out. So they noticed when they sent the wave through the two slits, it created this pattern of like lots of different lines on the wall, because waves operate differently than particles. Okay, so then they said, well, we want to know when that wave is going through, is it which which slit is it going through when it's shot through? Like, is it going through the one on the left or the one on the right? They wanted to observe where it was going through. So they set up a little camera next to this, and they said, now we're going to observe which one it's going through. And when they observed it, it changed what the particle was. So it was a possibility of many different things until they actually put the camera there to observe it, and then it became one distinct thing, one distinct probability. So I don't think I did a great job of explaining that. Probably there's a good video on that.
We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. Physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. It was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
I'm not here to say that I am an expert in physics or quantum physics by any means. I have read about these experiments. I find them intriguing, and I think that there are things that we can take away from these experiments and mesh with the idea of manifestation to help us create our reality. You might want to read up on the 2025 Nobel Prize winner in physics, because he just won the Nobel Prize for showing that quantum physics exists at greater than the quantum level. I watched a video about his experiment, and it was way above my head, but the conclusion was that that these effects that we thought that happened like at the quantum level are actually happening at larger scale levels. Not necessarily the table yet, but they are taking it away to talk about how it works at the quantum computing level. And yeah, so anyways, if you're interested in that, you can dive deeper into that research, but we'll continue. The core point here is that reality does behave differently when it's being watched, and you are the observer in your life. So everything you have to, if you think that like everything at the quantum level exists as pure potential, probabilistically until you observe it. This is not scientifically backed, but this is how I'm interpreting it based on everything I've read, is that the reason the table is as the table is in front of you is because probabilistically you have every reason to believe that that table will be there tomorrow as well. Okay, so a couple other things on that, and I have a video to show that also talks about this. So again, the wave particle duality, right? So everything, light and matter, it exists as a particle and a wave at the same time, depending, and what it is going to show to you depends on who's observing it and what they expect it to be. So just again, your observation changes if matter or light is operating as a particle or a wave. Okay, so then this idea of superposition, that all possibilities exist. This is the, you guys have probably heard of the Schrodinger's cat experiment. And I'm sure everybody's heard of that one, right? But so if the cat is in a box and it's both dead and alive at the same time, all the possibilities of the cat exist in that box all at the same time. You won't know what is actually existing until you open the box, and then by measuring if the cat is dead or alive, it collapses all the possibilities into one possibility, which is it is now as you observe it. So before you open the box, everything is possible. After you look at it, there's only one reality. Another example that I thought I would bring up, just because I know we had talked about it, but like those other weird examples of like the thing that we shared on Instagram that was like it's an audio clip, and then if you're looking at these words, you hear that audio. If you are looking at these words, you hear different audio. I could only hear the audio of the words I was reading. That is another example of that audio exists as two possibilities, and perhaps it is not one or the other until you observe it and expect it to be such. This guy has another good example that will that I found interesting. So we're going to play this.
I can think of to describe it. There's something called the Doppler effect, and it describes how waves change based on motion. And so we've all heard a car drive by us, and you know how a car drives by us, it goes and it changes pitch. The reason it changes pitch is because short wavelengths of sound, we hear that as a high pitch, and long wavelengths of sound, we hear as a low pitch. So as the car is moving towards you, or towards me, that sound wave is getting kind of squished together as those wave fronts get closer, and I hear the pitch getting higher, and then the car goes vroom, and the pitch gets lower as the car moves away from me because those wave fronts are stretching out and getting further apart, so I hear the pitch getting lower. But now, if we add relativity to it, and we say that the car is moving away from the person on the left and towards the person on the right. Well, relative to the person on the left, the waves are stretching out and getting longer, so that person hears a low pitch. But at the exact same time, the person on the right, the waves are compressing and getting closer together, they hear the pitch getting higher. And the person in the car, they're traveling with the sound source or with the wave source, so they hear a medium pitch and no sound change at all. And then what you do right there is you stop and say, what sound is the car actually making for real? It's kind of a weird question, but yeah. Is it making a low pitch to the person on the left, a high pitch to the person on the right, or a medium pitch to the person in the car? And it's actually making all three sounds relative to who's looking at it. And then you say, imagine there's an infinite number of people, and they're all looking at that car, and they're all moving at different velocities. Every single person hears a different sound, and every single reality is real and valid. It's just that they're relative. And so you know that old question of if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a sound? It doesn't. It makes a wave, and only if something's there with sound receptors does it make a sound. And so this same idea applies to light. So we all look at my shirt and we say, my shirt's blue, right? So you think we can see where this is heading. So we say my shirt's blue, but blue is a short wavelength of sound, and red is a short wavelength of light, and red is a long wavelength of light. And so if everybody in the audience had a twin, and your twins were up here with me, and we shot away from you at close to the speed of light, the wavelengths of light would stretch out and get longer, and all of you would see my shirt change to red. But your twins in motion with me, they would see my shirt as blue. And then again, we ask, what color is my shirt, red or blue? And it's literally both. And then we take one step further and we say, now imagine there's an infinite number of people all looking at my shirt, and every person's moving at a different velocity. Every single person sees a different color, and every reality is real, even though every reality is different. And so every single moment has the potential to literally be anything. And every potential can be any reality. It is just the slices of space-time, the picture frames that you realize that become your reality. But all the other realities that you don't see, that you don't experience, they are all just as real. It's just that by you, they're unrealized. Thank you.
All realities exist, just depends on who's observing that reality. And you can expand that from the color of your shirt and the, pitch of the audio. Is the audio saying this or that or this or that? Like you can expand that to other things, which is why we're talking about it in the context of manifesting money, because now you can see that all of the possibilities exist at the same time. You could be rich or poor at the same time, but it's not until you observe it. Do you think that you are rich or do you think you are poor, right? It does depend on your perspective entirely. But the point is that some people can see the potential of more wealth in their life than other people who may have exactly the same thing. Realistically, if you observed it, it's like if you have it's easy to see with salaries, but let's say in a more ethereal way, like some people may not see the value of their skills, of their charisma, of their network, of their physical abilities, perhaps, like their gifts, their talents. They may not see the potential of various material objects in their possession that have value. They may not see all that, right? And so they may say like, oh, I have nothing, I'm poor, I have, they perceive their lives to be very lacking, right? They're in this sort of lack sort of mentality, which we've talked about before. Whereas if somebody else comes in, they're like, what are you talking about? You have like a bajillion friends. Like you could ask anybody for a loan at any minute. Like you have a bajillion pieces of art in your house that you could sell at any minute. Like, and so it depends on your perspective, right? So people are going to see different things in their own reality, right? Two other things here on this slide. I mentioned quantum entanglement just as like a part of component of this, but I certainly cannot explain it. But if anybody wants to try to, you can. But I'm not sure it relates super directly to what we're talking about, so I can also skip it. I read these two examples that also kind of helped me visualize and understand a couple of these ideas. So one was like this idea that if an infinite number of possibilities exist in our reality, right? So an infinite number of things exist. That's kind of like another dimension. And then in our dimension, only one thing can be observed at the same time. So that's like our 3D dimension, right? So then how can we think like if there's more possibilities here, but on our plane there's only, you know, the 3D dimension? It's kind of like if you had a Rubik's Cube, right? So this image on the left, let's say you had a Rubik's Cube and you wanted to take the Rubik's Cube, but move it from the 3D plane to the 2D plane, you would only get one surface of that Rubik's Cube. But in the 3D plane, you have a whole bunch of possibilities of this Rubik's Cube. There's a lot more potential there. But when you have to collapse it down to a 2-dimension, you're only able to get one, I don't know what the geometry, one plane of the Rubik's Cube. Lots of things, but when you have to collapse it into our 3D dimension, you have fewer options. And then I also liked this image. So this is more around like the manifestation idea. So let's say that you want to create one, you want to manifest a possibility. You're like, I want to manifest this contract being signed. Okay. So let's say the contract being signed is this pebble in this like rubber, whatever this is, right? Into the whole space. So the pebble is that. So now you've placed this pebble here and you're intent on it. And so now instead of there being lots of possibilities, it's all of those possibilities are now turning in and they land on that pebble. So like everything kind of has to meet at that pebble. So that's kind of like the universe saying, there was lots of different things, but now that we've placed this here, we're going to make everything work to meet that. Does that kind of make sense? Okay, so now we're pulling it back to manifesting your wealthy reality. Okay, so we put all of this together. We're putting all the neuroscience, all the psychology, all the physics. When we combine this, what we see is that reality, our reality, offers many possibilities at once. There are many different possibilities out there. But what you put your sustained attention on, your very clear attention, intention on, it will increase the probability that that possibility will become reality. It increases the probability of that when your mind will start to notice things through the reticular activating system. It will start to take actions towards those things, selecting, I'm going to go to that lunch. All of these things until that probabilistic possibility becomes the reality in your world. And it's very personal to you because it's from your perspective. So yes, it does help that if you have multiple people who are also intending and putting their attention on this one thing, then it has more power because now you have more people trying to create that one thing together. I mean, this just kind of makes common sense, right? So if you have a team of people working together to create something as reality, it's much easier for that to come to reality than if you had one person, right? So if you are trying to now create something in your reality, you're not just saying this dollar or this $10,000 is just going to like magically appear. There are many different things in the reality that have to converge for that to become your reality. So at like the physics level, it's possible. We don't have proof of this, right? But based on what we know and what we see in our experience of our reality, that if we have someone who has consciousness and they are intending to put their attention on something, then there are vibrational waves, not particles. There are waves that are then collapsing into particles when that person then observes it. It becomes real. It moves from the wave to the particle form. So it all exists as information, as possibilities. You interact with that, and it becomes real. Another thing to think about here is that if you are then trying to create something that is very simple to do, then it doesn't necessarily depend on a lot of other people observing it. It's much easier for it to collapse into that probability. Quantum physics is happening, has been happening our entire lives without us thinking about it. From a personal perspective, I felt like my life wasn't really going as I wanted it to go for a long time, or at least there were certain areas of it that weren't really going the way I necessarily wanted it to go, because I wasn't really consciously creating my life. I was just kind of letting it happen based on subconscious beliefs, and like I didn't put any intention out there very often. It just kind of like, well, it happened, and but the intention was that, if I, like when I said that I like manifested my job at Airbnb, I really feel like I did, because I did actually have some intention. I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but what I did was I felt really bad at my job, so I quit it, and I felt very passionately, and I was very emotional about wanting to work in a workplace where I really liked my coworkers, where I was working with people that like I shared values with. I wanted to be doing work that felt important to me. And I only had a couple of criteria, but I was very clear about those criteria, and I stayed laser focused on those criteria. And I didn't search for the job. The job literally landed on my web browser. And I said, I wonder if they're hiring. I click, they are hiring. That's when I took the action to actually apply, because it aligned with everything. And yes, I did do work to get there, but I didn't consciously go say, I'm going to go apply for a job at Airbnb. I didn't even know what Airbnb was, right? I just knew that I had the intention for, a specific thing. And there were probably many different probabilistically possibilities of jobs that would have met those criteria. But when one of those jobs did appear as a potential possibility, I grabbed it and I took it, and it became my reality. And I was very happy there for a very long time. I think it's a lot easier to start believing that this process even works if you start with things that are a lot smaller and simpler and easier, and only really depend on your own observation of it. Whereas like trying to manifest a check for $1 million under your door, like that's advanced level shit. It takes a lot more different events, and each of those events has its own probability. And so you have to have this event, and then that event, and then that event. And so it's not like one simple thing. So I tried to come up with like a 4-step process to actually do this that was simple. This is what I came up with. These are the 4 steps. 1, choose the outcome that you want. So this is talking about having the intention and saying, of all of the different potentials that exist out there in the field, I'm going to pick this one. That's what I want. And it has to be something specific. It could be, I want a $1 million check to slide under my door, right? But it's going to be a bit easier also if you choose an outcome that is more believable, and work your way up into things that, if you start out small, like let's say, for example, you really do want to manifest $10,000 by the end of the year, but you don't necessarily believe that that possibility is possible right now, then you may want to choose something that's a bit smaller. Say, I want to manifest finding a $10 bill on the sidewalk. Maybe that's something that's more probabilistically possible for you in your reality, but you want to pick something that you actually do think is possible in like the near term, not like, I really do think it's possible in 5 years. Like, no, like today. Do you think it's actually possible today, even if it's not very common today? So an example of that might be, maybe I want to manifest finding a quarter on the sidewalk. I actually think it's pretty possible that I could find a quarter on the sidewalk. If I found a quarter on the sidewalk, I might just be like, oh yeah, it's a quarter. Like, you know, yeah, that happens all the time. But it doesn't actually happen all the time. It might happen like twice a year. But it's like within my realm of this is very possible. I wouldn't think that it's crazy. Of course I can find a quarter on the ground, right? And by doing that, yes, you're gaining your confidence, because then you're like, wait, I said that I wanted to find a quarter on the sidewalk, and then I did. Then I did step number 2, which was I saw it very vividly. I visualized in my mind exactly where that money was going to come from. I saw the money like being transferred to my account or something like that, or like getting the email that they were going to send it back to me or something. It was a very clear, vivid imagery of the moment that I got the money and how I felt. And I like felt it in my body with like, oh my God, I'm going to feel such relief. I'm going to feel such excitement, blah, blah, blah. So I visualized it very clearly. And so what that does, it's like the pebble thing. You're now like putting a pebble into reality and saying, okay, start making all of the other probabilities happen to make that happen. And I thought about it over and over. I didn't actually necessarily just forget about it. I did consistently kind of like keep thinking, yeah, I'm still hoping that I get that money. I'm still thinking about the moment that it might come in, blah, blah, blah. So I did 3, which was like holding the attention on it. You're just like, you're focused very clearly. So maybe you're meditating, I don't know, whatever it is that's focusing your attention on it. Maybe that's taking actions that are in line with that outcome. You don't say, well, I want $1 million, but I'm going to quit my job and become a stay-at-home mom and, you know, just watch TV all day. Like, that's not really holding your attention on the intended outcome of getting that $1 million, right? And then number 4 is to believe it with certainty. And so I did continue to believe that it was possible. And then the day that it came in, I remember even saying, oh my God, I can't believe that I got the money. But really, I reinforced my own confidence by saying, no, wait, I manifested this. I held my intention on it. I chose this outcome. I did everything in my power to make sure that this reality became real. So I took that as I created that outcome. And so that allows me to believe with certainty other things that I want to manifest in the future could also happen if the same things become true. And so I did manifest that money. I mean, I guess to me, it kind of felt a little bit like it was definitely, I remember you guys saying, yeah, but like, didn't you already like know that it was possible that you could get it? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly the point. I tried to manifest something that I thought was possible. You can't just have those affirmation cards being like, I am full of love. Okay, but if you don't believe it, then it's just never gonna happen. You have to actually like believe it deep in your core at a subconscious level. And sometimes you're not even aware So if you do try to manifest these things and it's not happening, sometimes a lot of it is because you don't actually believe it with certainty deep in your subconscious level. And there are ways to do that, but we're not going to go there for this particular conversation. These are the steps. This is how it works. There are obviously some things in between that can catch you up, but this is like the basic framework. Yeah. And so you also can't sabotage yourself. So once you decide that this is what you want to create, you just believe that it's already happened in one reality. You're just waiting for it to happen in this reality. You don't doubt it. You don't say, well, I don't know if I should do that. Maybe I should do something else. Or like, I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just never going to happen. Now you're putting your intention on it not happening, right? So that sabotages it when you start to doubt your own intention to create something. So yeah. And then I have the reminder here that you cannot do any of this in fight or flight mode because you will completely miss step number 4. You may choose the wrong outcomes because you're desperate. You might be like, I need $1 million tomorrow, right? Like, okay, well, that's not realistic. You can't set these outcomes from a fight or flight state. You have to get into a calmer state. And you can't really feel the emotion or clarity or visualize, again, unless you're in a calmer state, a brainwave state. And your gamma state is going to make you doubt yourself over and over and over again. So it just doesn't work. So this is why getting your nervous system in check first is honestly the foundation for everything. Okay, so lots of words on here, but this is the exercise that we're all going to do together, but you need to actually experience it to believe that this is how things work, right? If you don't have that experience, you'll just keep doubting. So we're not starting with anything crazy. We're all going to start super small to manifest something you want, but something small. You can choose anything, but over here on 2, choose your object. Select something small and specific in a familiar place. So like a coin or maybe a feather or a certain color leaf in a particular place. Maybe an insect, maybe like I want to see a cockroach or a spider or I don't know, something that you think is possible for you to see, but that you don't necessarily see every day, everywhere, right? So you can't just say, I want to manifest finding a leaf on the sidewalk. Like, obviously you will, because then if you see that, you're not going to believe that you manifested it because you're like, yeah, but it's just there all the time. So it has to be something that you wouldn't necessarily see every day. So like a penny or a dime or a quarter on the ground isn't something you see every day. So that could be something, and it's money related. But you could also say, I want to manifest like a particular color leaf in a particular place that maybe you don't always naturally find there, right? Does that make sense? But like a coin, like I wouldn't say I want to manifest a penny if I have pennies in my purse and I can just go into my purse and find it, right? So I might say I want to manifest a penny on the sidewalk, right? But a ladybug, you're not going to find that like just anywhere. So really you could see it, it could appear anywhere in any form as long as it's a ladybug. When you end up finding it or having it shown to you, you want to believe that you were the one that created it rather than chalking it up to just like coincidence or chance. Are you all in a position where you could close your eyes for a couple minutes? But we'll close our eyes and we're going to focus on the object that we're going to manifest, and we're going to describe it, and you're going to see it, you're going to feel it, you're going to get a very vivid image in your mind of this. And then you're going to feel how you feel when you eventually do find it, or it appears to you. And it's important that you are actually feeling it, not just mentally saying, oh yeah, I guess I'll be excited. Yeah, like you want to actually feel it. You want to be like,
Just align something.
put yourself in that spot. Like you are putting your physical body in the future into what that feels like for you. Kind of like if I had said, oh, I want you to feel what it feels like to see your dog waiting for you at home and just so excited to see you, you're going to feel the feelings of that, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we will do that. And then after that, that's the process of like, okay, I feel it. And I've seen it. Then after that, you're just going to kind of let it go, but you are going to expect that it will happen. And you're going to get this feeling of curiosity to just be like, well, I wonder how long it's going to take for me to see this. But you're not, if I see it or doubting it, you're just expecting it will happen. And we're just curious when it will happen. And keep that open. So maybe like when you're out and about, you're like, oh, I wonder if today is the day I'm going to see that ladybug out, I don't know. So you're just going to treat this like an experiment. I like the analogy. It's anticipatory, as if you've ordered something online and you're just waiting for delivery, but you don't know when it's going to be delivered, but you know it's coming. You're just like, oh, did it come today? Oh, should I check the mail? And then after we get off this call, right? So you'll be out and about in the wild on yourself. And when that object shows up, it will show up. Do not dismiss it. This is very important. You need to congratulate yourself and feel the feelings of like, oh my God, look at this. I fucking manifested this ladybug, or I manifested this feather, or I manifested this euro coin. Like, this is so exciting, because it'll be an exciting moment. So do that. We'll make a WhatsApp thread so that when you manifest your object, you take a picture and you send it to everybody with the story of how you found it, or it came to you, or whatever. And that will strengthen your neural pathways and build the confidence to manifest bigger and better and more things. Is everybody excited? Okay, I will also manifest a money-related thing. I will manifest I'll manifest a nickel. And I'll just find it. I'm not going to manifest a nickel in my purse or whatever. Yeah. Okay. So, everybody close your eyes. Sit comfortably. Get a little bit cozy in your chair. Close your eyes. We're going to take a couple deep breaths together. So take one breath in, a long, deep inhale. Hold it at the top. And then let out your breath all the way. And take another deep breath in. Hold. And let it out slowly. Release the tension in your eyes. Release the tension in your jaw. Release the tension in your neck. Release the tension in your shoulders. And now just notice your breath going in and out. Feel it on your nostrils. A slow, natural breath. That's good. Great. So now, in your mind's eye, I want you to bring forth the object that you are manifesting. I want you to see it clearly. Notice what color it is, or what colors it is. Notice any patterns. Notice the texture. What does it feel like to your touch? Or what do you imagine it would feel like? Is it smooth? Is it soft? Is it firm? Is it rough or bumpy? Does it tickle you? Or does it feel heavy? Notice all angles of it. The bottom, the side, front, the back. Maybe play with it on your hands a little bit. Notice its temperature, or how light or heavy it is. And now notice where it is. Where did you find this object? Was it on a windowsill? Was it on a sidewalk? Was it on a plant? In a pile of leaves? Was it on a table? Just notice what the environment is where you found it. And maybe what the environment is. Is the environment around you quiet or loud? Are you alone or with someone else? Now I want you to feel what it feels like to find this object or have it appear to you. What are you doing when you found it? What are you saying to yourself as you found it? Are you smiling? Are you shocked? Are you amazed? Are you telling somebody around you the story of how this came to be and why this means so much to you? Or are you alone and just noticing the power of your creation? And really feel the emotion of this moment and feel it all through your body, down your head, into your throat. How does your throat feel? How do your lungs and breathing feel? How does your heart feel? How does your whole body feel? Are you calm? Are you tingly? Do you have lots of energy? Really feel this moment. And then remember that this was your doing and that you put this energy in to cause this to come into your life. And now you're going to share this with your family and show them how excited you are. And that's it. So now you can open your eyes and come back to the group. Welcome back. So now, was that good? Everybody could feel and see and visualize? Great. All right, so now we're just gonna let that go and just wait for that to come in. And when it comes in, you're gonna share it with us and we'll make a WhatsApp group. All right, so that's step one. We could just settle it there, but if you wanted to take it a step further and experiment with this on your own, maybe you manifest your object tomorrow and you've got a whole week and you're like, I want to take this another step. So you could try the reverse. You could try to make something disappear, which is a kind of a cool idea. So an example of this would be like if you wanted to make a line disappear, like a line at the coffee shop or a parking spot, or you're at the post office and there's a long line and you want the line to go down, right? So you're trying to manifest something to disappear, like a car disappear from the parking spot that you want, right? So you'll do the same thing, but you'll close your eyes and visualize that space as empty. So if you're visualizing, I want to manifest a parking spot once I get to my destination, you close your eyes, you visualize, I get to the parking lot, it might be full, but then I see the exact spot where a car pulls out just in time and I scoot right in, something like that. Or you're at the coffee shop and you're imagining, well, there was a line, but everybody just kind of dispersed and they went about their business, or they only ordered like one thing and they got out of the line super fast. Who knows, right? So, but something believable to you. And then once you feel like you really have an image of the space opening up, you can go to your destination and see what happens. This might be a little bit more challenging depending on your level of belief here, but yeah, you could try this out as well. But again, if you believe that it won't happen, you'll just sabotage it. So that's why it's important that we're starting small with something believable. And if you want to start with another small thing too, if you manifest your feather or your coin or whatever, and you want to manifest something else, just pick another thing that's also very believable to you and do the same process that I did with you, but yourself, and see what happens. the belief part is really important. Another good example of this from other people who have manifested pretty big things. There's a woman on record. She's not alive now. She was alive in the past, sometime in the last 100 years. I just don't remember exactly when it was, but she apparently had a similar process-ish for herself. I don't know what her exact process was, but she believed that she could manifest anything she wanted. And she decided to enter into every like contest or giveaway, raffle, all these things, right? Where there's literally a probability of winning it. So she entered into all of these and she won every raffle or contest that she entered. And she followed a very similar process where she imagined herself winning it and expected to win it. And then when she did win it, she said, yeah, I manifested it. It was me. It wasn't just random chance. And she manifested everything. She manifested a ton of money that just flowed right to her. All she had to do was apply. I think one of the ones was actually winning a house. She applied to some contest to win a house and she won it. And there are a lot of people who entered into those contests, I'm sure, but she was probably the only one who believed wholeheartedly that she would win and focused her intention so intently on winning. Whereas other people may have just, oh, I'm just going to throw my name into the hat. I don't know if I'll win. I probably won't, but I'm just going to try anyways. And what do you think the universe is going to give you? Probabilistically, probably not a win. The odds are not in your favor if you don't think so. But the odds were in her favor because of her intention. Anyways, so that's always a cool example. I'm not that advanced either. I don't think that I can win every contest that I enter, which means I won't, right? That's it. That's the end of our manifesting money presentation. It's more about manifesting, the science of manifesting, but you can apply this to everything to do with money.